It's midday in Dakar and 1 p.m. in Abuja. Good afternoon, and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and worldwide on wadr.org. Welcome to Newslink. Here are the top stories. Son of former Senegalese President Wadr urges immediate implementation of measures to stabilize the economy, foster peace, and generate employment opportunities. Niger's Patriotic Liberation Front, LFP, threatens another attack on the country's pipeline over a crude oil agreement with China. Benin's Economic Court sentences 3 arrested Nigerian officials to 18 months in prison despite rising tensions between Cotonou and Niamey. Meanwhile, police in Nigeria's Kaduna State in the northwest region nab a notorious phone syndicate.
They will be hired from our neighboring states, come to Kaduna and operate. Kill people, take their phones, as you can see. What they came out to look for is phones, handset. We track them, we follow them into the hotel, and we arrest them.
Stay with us for details of these stories and more.
Here is Abdullahi Hassan with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining us and a warm welcome to our listeners in the Gambia, Ghana, Liberia, and Sierra Leone. We begin right here in Senegal because President Bassirou Diomaye Faye, on the occasion of Tabaski or Eid al-Adha, received messages from high-profile individuals. Among these personalities is Karim Wade, the son of former President Abdoulaye Wade. Rose Samara Kate tells us more.
Wade on his social network accounts hailed the entire Senegalese population on the religious event, but in particular wished the new authorities every success. He said he hopes President Diomaye Faye and his government will continue to intensify their efforts to undertake bold and visionary initiatives that would benefit every Senegalese. The disqualified candidate in the 2024 presidential election also urged the new government to monitor several key areas that constitutes the country's development. These areas, according to him, include food self-sufficiency, universal access to electricity and drinking water, quality education for all children, and the creation for sustainable jobs for the young people. Karim Wade, who appears to be speaking publicly for the first time since Diomaye Faye's inauguration in April, asked for forgiveness from all those whom he has offended and admonished lasting peace in the country. The remarks by the senior Senegalese political figure come a day after Faye was criticized by a certain rights activist for publishing details of some 300-plus inmates freed on the eve of Tabaski's celebrations. Others, however, welcomed the first presidential amnesty granted to prisoners by the new government.
Rose Samara Kate with that report. Meanwhile, the showdown between Benin and Niger continues after 3 Nigerians, including the deputy general manager of WAPCO, Niger's national oil company, arrested last week, were sentenced. The 18-month prison sentence was handed to each one of them on Monday evening by the Court for the Repression of Economic Offenses and Terrorism, CRET, which reclassified the charges as usurpation of title and the use of falsified computer data. These Nigerian oil company officials, WAPCO, were arrested in Benin at the Semekboji oil pipeline export platform. David Vincent has more.
The hammer of justice struck down on 3 Nigerians, including the deputy director of WAPCO Niger and her 2 compatriots, who have been sentenced to 18 months. The Criminal Court for the Repression of Economic Offenses and Terrorism, CRIET, found the defendants guilty of usurpation of title and use of falsified computer data. According to information obtained from RFI, the special prosecutor will sign the release orders immediately to allow them return to Niger. The court also asked the judicial police to return their personal belongings. This sentencing looks like a show of force by Benin towards Niger, since relations between the 2 countries have been strained by the transit of Niger's oil through Benin. Niger has recently ordered the closure of the pipeline valves, while Benin has banned all export of cereal to other countries, which is a major handicap for Niger.
David Vincent reporting there. Over in Niger, an armed group known as the Patriotic Liberation Front, FPL, is threatening to attack the country's pipeline facilities one more time. This move is in protest to the $400 million advance payment that China has made to the Nigerian authorities as part of the export of crude oil from the country. The military government had last week Wednesday reported an attack by bandits in the south of the country that resulted in the death of 6 soldiers guarding the state property. FPL, which admitted to carrying out the attack, is also demanding the cancellation of this deal. Augustine Colley reports.
In the statement of the night of June 16, 2024, the armed group, which has for months been directing its actions towards the Nigerian authorities, said the National Council for the Safeguarding of the Fatherland, CNSP, has directed the proceeds of Nigerian crude oil into the hands of individual interests of its members. The FPL is therefore presenting itself as the savior of the Nigerian people, stating that its objective is to prevent the CNSP from being the biggest beneficiaries of the oil in the country. The FPL added that if the $400 million advance promised to the CNSP by China is not cancelled, all oil facilities will be paralyzed in their next actions. But this, the FPL has served notice to persons using the Ngeme Kulili and Zenda Jaoro sections to avoid using it for their own safety. It is worth noting that these threats come in the wake of Niger's pipeline already shutting down because of the diplomatic crisis between Cotonou and Niamey. Niger has also decided to close the valves that allowed the shipment of crude oil to Benin.
Augustine Colley reporting. Talking about African countries and international military support to combat security threats, one key ally, France, will be making a significant drawdown in the coming days. According to sources, Paris will withdraw troops from the countries of the Sahel Strip and those in the Gulf of Guinea. This military pullout was first announced by President Emmanuel Macron in 2023 and has since been gradually implemented, as seen in Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger most recently. Imo Edet completes the story.
France will only leave a few hundred soldiers in West and Central African regions. Senegal and Gabon, which had 350 French soldiers, will end up with 100. Côte d'Ivoire, which has 600 French soldiers, will soon have 100, same as for Chad, which currently has 1,000 French troops. President Emmanuel Macron indicates that this decision is part of the military drawdown that began in Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger to leave the Sahel in favor of other partners such as Russia. However, according to the French president, France may increase its number of troops in any of these countries when partners make official requests. It should be noted that in Côte d'Ivoire, the decline in military forces has already begun from 900 to 600 in recent months. In Senegal, the operation is also underway. This future tight leap initiative will allow for maintaining relations with local military authorities, guaranteeing strategic access by sea and air, but also gathering information and following the actions of the operational partnerships. In February, the French president had commissioned former Minister Jean-Marie Bockel to meet with African partners on the new modalities of the French military presence on the airfield. These conclusions are expected in July.
Imo Edet reporting.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Many thanks for staying with us. Remember, we're live on wadia.org. Let's take you to Nigeria, where the police have arrested a notorious phone snatching syndicate in Kaduna State in the northwest region. The syndicate, which is led by Wan Khalid, was traced by the police and arrested in their hideout in a hotel. According to some victims of phone snatching, the activities of the members of this syndicate have been going on for a long time. Speaking to the media after the arrests were made, Mansur Hassan, Kaduna Police Command Public Relations Officer, said some of the recruits came from Borno State, thousands of kilometers in the northeast region.
And we realized that this majority of these people, they have been hired. They were hired from a different state to come to Kaduna and operate. They will be hired from our neighboring state, come to Kaduna and operate. Kill people, take their phones, as you can see. We arrested one Khalid, Salisu Khalid, who is the masterminder of most of these things. He has a voice. He employed them. In fact, the recent ones, he employed them from Maiduguri. They were in Lagos. He called them to come back to Kaduna and do a work for him. He looked for a KK where he give them to do for this operation. They are mainly concerned, they are not after passengers or after whatsoever. What they came out to look for is phones, handset. We track them, we follow them into the hotel, and we arrest them.
That was Mansur Hassan, the police public relations officer of Kaduna State, northwest Nigeria. Still in Nigeria, at least 30 deaths have been recorded and more than 1,140 suspected cases of cholera registered nationwide. According to the Nigeria Center for Disease Control and Prevention (NCDC), the cases that occurred between January and June 11, 2024 were reported from 96 local government areas in 30 states of the country. The Director General of the center, Dr. Jide Idris, warned over the increasing cases of cholera nationwide and expressed the need for citizens to be cautious of their surroundings. Ogeberika has the rest of the details.
According to Dr. Idris, 10 states that contribute 90% to the burden of cholera in Nigeria include Bayelsa, Zamfara, Abia, Cross River, Bauchi, Delta, Katsina, Imo, Nasarawa and Lagos states. He urged Nigerians to be wary of the increasing trend of cholera cases across the country as the rainy season intensifies. Meanwhile, the Lagos State Commissioner for Health, Professor Akin Abayomi, said the cholera strain reported in Lagos State is highly aggressive and contagious. The commissioner disclosed that the laboratory tests carried out on samples from the state confirmed that the identified strain had the potential for widespread dissemination. Professor Abayomi, who gave the update on the spread of cholera in the state through his Instagram page, stated that cholera is a food and waterborne disease caused by ingesting the bacteria Vibrio cholera in contaminated water and food. According to him, cholera can cause severe acute watery diarrhea, and the severe forms of the disease can kill within hours if left untreated. Meanwhile, upon an unidentified gap at the EOC, UNICEF is supporting the government in developing information, education, and communication (IEC) materials to disseminate public health messages in support of social and behavioral change.
That was Oge Obiarika. More on the health-related stories, but this time in Ghana. Some medical experts in the cancer treatment ecosystem have expressed concern about the country's high cancer patient mortality rate due to inadequate cancer care and treatment. The experts, including health professionals, academics, and policymakers, say poor data collection, the absence of a cancer registry, and insufficient policies and health facilities are serious concerns throughout the country. Here is more with Francis Boniface.
According to the International Research Agency for Cancer, the overall cancer incidence rate in Ghana is 120.4 per 100,000 people per year, while the overall cancer fatality rate is 82.6. These issues were highlighted at the Trust Hospital Cancer Care Academy held in Accra on the topic Closing the Care Gap, Advancing Cancer Care Through Education and Collaboration. The 3-day event brought together all key players from Ghana's cancer care and treatment ecosystem to discuss cancer-related issues. Dr. Florence Dede, a senior lecturer at the University of Ghana Medical School's Department of Surgery, stated that Ghana's cancer care and treatment policies and data are insufficient and clearly outdated. She explained that the existing policy used in cancer care and treatment in Ghana is the National Cancer Control Plan, but is out of date as there has not been any review in recent years. She therefore advocates for an effective cancer registry to close the data gap for cancer patients in the country, allowing for cost-efficient interventions, research, and surveillance. Dr. Wale Zodiko Olenu, a representative of the Ghana Health Service, said inadequacies in the areas of financing, healthcare personnel, education, and information exchange have driven cancer patients to seek treatment from quacks. Cancer cases are among the highest causes of deaths, especially among middle-aged persons in Ghana.
Francis Boniface filed that report, and just before the break, we remain in Ghana, where the Ministry of Health has appealed to the Medical Laboratory Professional Workers Union to call off a strike and return to the negotiating table. The ministry said it acknowledges all the union's demands for improved working conditions and is ready to address them at the negotiating table. In a press release signed by the Public Relations Department, the ministry stated that the government's negotiation team had reached an agreement on most of the items proposed by the union. On June 3, the Medical Laboratory Professional Workers Union announced the commencement of a nationwide strike from Monday, June 17, which has since affected services provided by their members in medical laboratories, blood banks, pathology laboratories, and selected mortuary facilities across the country. This decision comes as a response to prolonged delays by the fair Wages and Salaries Commission and the Ministry of Finance in concluding negotiations with the union. You are listening to Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Here's a reminder of our top stories. Son of former Senegalese President Wadr urges immediate implementation of measures to stabilize the economy, foster peace and generate employment. Niger's Patriotic Liberation Front threatens another attack on the country's pipelines over a crude oil agreement with China. Benin's Economic Court sentences 3 arrested Nigerian officials to 18 months in prison despite rising tensions between Cotonou and Niamey. We also told that police in Nigeria's Kaduna State have nabbed the notorious phone snatching syndicate. Still ahead in the news, we have the press review, guest interview, and a sports update. Please stay with us.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
Many thanks for staying with us. More than 130 African ministers have unanimously endorsed the landmark Continental Artificial Intelligence AI Strategy and African Digital Compact to accelerate Africa's digital transformation by unlocking the potential of new digital technologies. The African ICT and Communications Ministers decided during the second extraordinary session of the Specialized Technical Committee on Communication and ICT in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Tisu has the details.
In a statement on Monday, the African Union, AU, said the Continental AI Strategy guides African countries to harness artificial intelligence to meet Africa's development aspirations and the well-being of its people while promoting ethical use, minimizing potential risks, and leveraging opportunities. According to the AU statement, the strategy also sets the roadmap for African countries to harness the potential of AI to achieve developmental aspirations for education and skills, health, agriculture, infrastructure, peace and security, and good governance by developing human capital, strengthening research and innovation ecosystems, and building an AI-ready institutional and regulatory environment to ensure AI works for African people. The strategy calls for an Africa-owned, people-centered, development-oriented, and inclusive approach to accelerate African countries' AI capabilities in infrastructure, talent, data sets, innovation, and partnerships, while also ensuring adequate safeguards and protection from threats. At the opening of the ministerial session, African Union Commissioner for Infrastructure and Energy, Amani Abu Zaid, stated that Africa has resolved to harness new technologies for the well-being of Africans and to develop a continent-wide approach and a harmonized journey for this revolutionary technology. He said artificial intelligence presents tremendous opportunities and it is a driving force for positive transformational change as well as economic growth and social progress.
Ichi Atisu with that report.
This is the newspaper review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country.
This is the newspaper review.
The newspaper review.
On today's press review segment, WEDR's Darlington Pope and Monrovia, Liberia's capital, is standing by with a summary of the major headlines on the national dailies.
For this edition of Press Review, we begin a review process with the New Dawn newspaper. Molu resigns from CDC finally. That's the former chairman of the former ruling party, the Congress for Democratic Change, Morba Molu. Don't turn Liberia's victory into money. Bishop Brown rebukes Bwaka's administration. On the back page of the New Dawn newspaper, the signs are troubling to ignore. Abdullah Kiatamba speaks on Bwaka's leadership. From the New Dawn newspaper, we move over now to the News newspaper, where we have the former Chief Justice Grover Mususkau. Deplorable conditions in prison, Grover Mususkau laments. That's former Chief Justice Grover Mususkau, who was sentenced to life in prison for her involvement into the death of her niece, Shalom Musu. Still on the front page of the News newspaper, artists disappointed in Bwakai. They cry exclusion from employment. On the back page of the News newspaper, tariffs suspended on off-grid solar extended as Bwakai signs Executive Order Number 134. Molu exists CDC to prioritize neutrality in civil society. government downplays Martin Colley's resignation, says it wouldn't respond. We see the photograph of Information Minister Jerry Lekme-Pia on the back page of the newspaper. From the newspaper, the Independent newspaper is now our final stop for today's edition of Press Review. Supporters vexed with Buakai as aggrieved rescue artists open up. Unauthorized absence for 10 days amounts to resignation. UL tells faculty members, says university remains open. The administration of the University of Liberia hereby advises all full-time and part-time employees to continue performing all academic and administrative duties to ensure a successful conclusion of the current academic semester in keeping with the revised academic calendar. Towards achieving the goal, the UL administration informs all stakeholders, staff, students, and the general public that continuation of the normal working and academic activities, including teaching and learning on all campuses of the university. The UL administration is convinced that any move to the contrary is intended to sabotage and undermine the planned launch of the University of Liberia doctorate and student program scheduled for this Wednesday, June 19, 2024. We will leave it right there. This clarification is coming at a time when the University of Liberia Faculty Association announced a go-slow recently. On the back page of the Independent newspaper is a death-related announcement here. On that note, that is how I would love to conclude today's edition of Press Review. Thank you so much for following, and bye-bye.
Indeed, many thanks, Danilton Popper.
Politics,
Analysis on major news,
social matters, and all. This is a guest.
Our guest this afternoon takes a look at the first story in the bulletin concerning the statement from Karim Wade, son of former Senegalese President Abdoulaye Wade. The disqualified candidate from the last presidential election in Senegal is advocating peace in the country while urging President Bassirou Diomaye Faye to implement swift measures to stabilize the economy, create employment opportunities, and better the lives of ordinary citizens. Mamadou Cho, a Senegalese political analyst, reacts to what appears to be Wade's first statement since Diomaye Faye's inauguration in April.
I think this last communique of Karim Wade is part of his new patterns to let Senegalese know that he is still a political figure in our local landscape, because as you know, he has been far away for a long time, many years, and still people are asking themselves why he cannot come back, because he was, criticizing former President Macky Sall to prevent him from coming back home, but Macky Sall is no longer the president, and the new president is one of his partners, so he has been elected and in charge for almost 3 months now. Why Karim Wade is still in Qatar and cannot come back and maybe take charge of his political party, meaning the Senegalese Democratic Party? Because in the last week, we noticed that he took some decision, replacing the lady leading the women of the party, and many female figures decided to quit the party, meaning they disagree with his decision. Because when you look at the age of his dad, he's still the leader of the party, maybe to come back and take care of the former PDS party.
To talk about his statement in particular, he urged the new government of President Bassirou Diomaye Faye to look at policies in the area of economy, job creation, and of course food sufficiency, among others. Would you say in your assessment that this is a critical submission, or perhaps him seeing possibly how an alliance can be built with the new government?
I think it's a reminder, because normally the Prime Minister will go to the National Assembly in the coming days to say which policies President Diomaye Faye will be implementing for the next 5 years. And yeah, it's a good time for him maybe to remind them what are the key maybe policies, because he was talking about quality education, jobs for young people, and we know that this country is very young, and food sufficiencies and things like that. I mean, this is some key points when you look at the current president Bassirou Diomaye Faye program. People are waiting for the new president to start maybe implementing those the reform which are expected and the policies which will make better the life of Senegalese in general.
Mamadou Joyce, a Senegalese political analyst. Up next is sports news with Sankule Janko.
Hello, very warm welcome and thank you for joining us. Nigeria and Zambia are officially through to the FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup after securing their tickets to the Global Soapy set for the Dominican Republic between 16 October and 3 November 2024. Nigeria were the first African team to secure a place at the Women's Youth Competition after defeating Liberia 6-1 on aggregate. It was smooth sailing for the Nigerians following their comfortable 4-1 away win last weekend according to CAF official website. Going into the return leg on Friday, 14 June, with the backing of the home supporters in Abuja, Harmony Chidi's Brace secured a comfortable 2-0 victory for the West African nation. It was more than enough to see them become the first African nation to secure a place at the finals. The second of Africa's 3 places was secured by Zambia on Saturday, 15 June, which sees the Zambians return to the tournament after a 10-year absence. The job was as good as done in Dola when Nambuti Chilele's stunning hat-trick secured a 3-1 win for the South African side. Going into the return leg in Morocco, the Zambians kept Morocco at bay for a goalless stalemate, which meant they became the second nation to book their place at the Global Soapies. The third and final place for Africa will be decided between Kenya and Burundi. Kenya hold the advantage following a 3-0 first leg win at home. And that's it for sports. It's back to you.
Sports is brought to you by Sankule Janko. And that's how we wrap up this edition of Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Krista Mukidi and David Vincent for the technical support. Do interact with us via social media platforms X, formerly Twitter, Instagram at WADR News, and on Facebook, WADR English Service. You can also visit Google Play Store today to download our mobile application, WADR Live. I am Abdullahi Hassan. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.9